Let's talk about your early biohacking days and your relationship with modafinil. People ask you about that all the time. You recently posted a great tweet about it where you just asked a bunch of blog questions. I just love to hear your evolution with it, and now the way you talk to people about it, and then the way you explain, sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't, and these are the choices we have. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it is, your relationship with this? I know on your LinkedIn profile you used to stick Provigil on there, and it was almost an inside joke to the people who knew about it.
Well, in Silicon Valley, people have known about this for a while. Modafinil is the smart drug. The one, if you've seen Limitless, the movie with Bradley Cooper, it was sort of patterned roughly off modafinil, and clearly that was a much bigger drug. But this is something where you take it and you're like, well, I feel more like myself than I have in a long time, and my ability to focus, you feel limitless. And when I started taking this stuff, I was working at a startup that sold for about $600 million in value. And I was getting my MBA at Wharton and doing that in an executive program that was the same number of hours as a full-time MBA program. So I was full on balls to the wall. I wasn't succeeding in the classes, and there was something weird going on because I'm quantitative and I pay attention. I'm like, I sit down to take a test, and the first question on the test I get 100. Second question I get 100%. Second question 70%. Third question 30%. After that, 0. And something's happening here, and it's predictable linear decline in performance, and I feel helpless. And I'm actually scared. I'm like, am I going to graduate? Because something is trashing my brain. I don't know what the deal is here. So I started, in fact, that was when I got my first brain scan with Daniel Amen. And it wasn't with Amen, it was with one of the people who trained with him for 15 years. And this guy was a psychiatrist. And he took one look at me, oh, getting your MBA, working full time, yeah, I know your type. You want Adderall. Like there are people who want Adderall for performance enhancement. Adderall's prescription methamphetamine.
Yeah.
So it kind of dismissively looks at me, and he said, well, we'll order the brain scan for you, but I think that's probably not right for you. So I come back and he looks at the report, and there's 2 pages of bad results and all these red splotches on my brain, and he goes, direct quote, "Inside your brain is total chaos. I don't know how you're standing here in front of me. You have the best camouflage of anyone I've ever seen." Okay. So my brain was not functioning very well. I was succeeding enough to graduate at Wharton, and I was at a startup that we sold for a lot of money. Okay. It's not like I wasn't performing. I was struggling greatly. And this is a really important point. Everyone listening to this, if we injected you with radioactive sugar and scanned your brains, there are areas for improvement. Everyone has them, almost without a doubt. There's probably a few people with perfect blood flow and perfect metabolic activity everywhere, and they're probably the happiest, most successful people you know. But they're very, very rare. So we can all improve that way. I had a lot of room for improvement. So one of the things when he saw that was like, good God, what drugs do you want? And we started out on Adderall. I took it for about a month and hated it.
What was it like? I want to make you feel like.
Adderall made me focus a little bit better. It made me angry, and it made it so I didn't want anyone to touch me. Like I would take it and I would just want to go like sit in a room in the dark and just chill. It was really unpleasant for me.
And you call it prescription methamphetamine. Do people hate it when you say that? Do they disagree when you say that?
I don't think you can disagree. On the label it said D-methamphetamine salts. Like it actually says it on the label. It is prescription methamphetamine. Right. I wasn't saying that as a slam. That's just the generic name for what they prescribe. Okay. Little blue pills that are also sold as Adderall. Right. And there's Ritalin, which is not prescription meth, but what I had was actually prescription meth.
Okay, right. And this is, yeah, okay.
It wasn't the Heisenberg level though, so it was blue though.
Right. It was blue. So you started with that, and then...
And I said, there is research on this new drug called modafinil. I really want to try modafinil. And he said, all right, it's off-label, but we'll give it a try. And I tried it. I'm like, holy crap. Things are effortless. Like, I can pay attention again. Like, I got my brain back. This is amazing. And I was already taking a handful of other smart drugs that are less effective, but still very valuable, stuff I still take today. This had brought my brain back online from where I had been before, where I probably wouldn't have even been able to get into Wharton. Like, I was zombified for a while. So I'm like, all right. This stuff rocks. And I took it just about every day. Maybe I'd skip weekends here and there, but the vast majority of the time for 8 years. And it helped my career. It helped me graduate from business school. I actually felt a little bit guilty about it. And there's probably people in my class who would remember before a few of the tests, I would actually put the smart drugs I was taking on the desk in front of me. I'm like, guys, I'm not doping. If you know what I'm doing and you have the ability to do it too, then it's not doping. Right. It's not cheating. And I still don't believe it's cheating any more than wearing a sweater on a cold day is cheating. It's just technology that helps you do what you're doing. So I took the stuff and it really, really helped my performance. It was amazing. Then I came out with a Bulletproof Coffee and Bulletproof Diet principles. I put them online for a couple of years before I wrote the Bulletproof Diet book. And there were a few critics who were saying everything you do comes from modafinil because there's a study that says it helps you lose weight. I'm like, you know what? This is highly unlikely. And there were a few people who said I was hiding it from them, even though I'd been on national news talking about it, which I always thought was one of the more bizarre criticisms of Bulletproof. But
and it was in your profile for a long time. Right?
Exactly. I was like, everyone else in the Nightline piece was wearing paper bags over their heads because they wouldn't show their face. And I'm like, yes, I actually take modafinil. I'm okay with it. Like, it might help you too. So I consider it to be a profoundly effective drug for occasional use or for regular use if you need it. And it's changed many people's lives. And it's much safer than Adderall and much safer than Tylenol. But it does have some potential risks. They're small, though, compared to many of the drugs we take. So I looked at the criticism. I'm like, okay, maybe this is valid criticism. Let's do the experiment. So I went off of modafinil. And I did it while I was drinking Bulletproof Coffee, while I was eating the Bulletproof Diet, while I was avoiding the things that make me weak. And when I did that, I measured using a university-grade cognitive executive function kind of testing. And what I found was that when I was off of modafinil, my decision-making time was more variable. In other words, you couldn't predict how long it would take me. Sometimes I was very fast, sometimes I was longer. But my average decision-making time was somewhere. When I was on modafinil, my average decision-making window was smaller, it was more predictable, but my average speed was the same. Other than that, I felt good all the time, which I didn't have that before when I started taking modafinil. I had the energy to make it through the day, to feel good, to play with my kids at the end of the day. This energy was not something that I naturally had before. I'm like, all right, modafinil isn't doing very much for me. Is there a modafinil in my bag right now? Yeah, there is. I just flew to London or to Scotland and then London. It's been a relatively intense trip. I actually just used Bulletproof Coffee and the normal stack of relatively lightweight smart drugs that I do every day. And the things I know about hacking light and temperature and all for jet lag. And you know what? I didn't need the modafinil.
Right.
But it was there if I wanted it, or if I was going to crash, I was like, man, I'm just too tired. Like my brain isn't focusing. I really want to be present for the audience for this interview. I would have happily taken the modafinil, but I didn't need to. So that's where I am in my relationship with it today. I'm grateful that the people said, hey, everything you do, you scammer, it's because of modafinil. It caused me to experiment with something that I knew very well worked great. But when your brain is dialed in, when your nutrition is where it should be, when you're doing other things right, and probably some of the meditation and neurofeedback and things I've done, like I'm better performing now than I was. And so I use modafinil less.
Talk to me about how people can get really sensitive about what they call a drug and not a drug. Like you said, this is technology. To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.